Hello, I'm Professor Mary Horgan, President of the Royal College of Physicians of Ireland. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar on our examination, the MRCPI. Ireland has a long-standing relationship with Malaysia, particularly in the field of medical education. Indeed, many of our Irish medical graduates come from Malaysia, study here within our medical schools, and return to practice all over Malaysia. We've also had the pleasure of huge support from my Malaysian colleagues, particularly the late Dr. Jaya, who had been hugely supportive of the Royal College of Physicians in Malaysia, and we sadly miss him. My colleagues, Dr. Tharma and Dr. Perlis, have taken up the mantle and are very instrumental in rolling out today's webinar. I look forward in engaging in what will be a very helpful discussion with you to encourage you to take what is a well-recognised, world-renowned examination, the membership of the Royal College of Physicians of Ireland. The Royal College of Physicians of Ireland has been in existence for over 3 centuries when it was started in 1654. Since that time, it has trained and educated doctors all over the world to provide quality and safe care to our peoples. And many of my predecessors will be well known to you: Robert Graves of Graves' disease, Cheyne and Stokes of Cheyne-Stokes breeding, and Corrigan, renowned for Corrigan's pulse. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sinead Freeman, and I am the manager of the Examinations Department in the Royal College of Physicians of Ireland. I am delighted to welcome you to this special online event today, where we will introduce you, our Malaysian doctors, to the Royal College of Physicians of Ireland, give you an overview of the MRCPI examinations, and answer any questions that you may have regarding the college or our examinations. Today, we will hear from speakers who will give you an overview of the format, structure, and benefits to you of sitting the MRCPI exams in Malaysia. Colm Small, Head of Training and Education at the College, will present an introduction to the Royal College of Physicians of Ireland and an overview of what you can expect in the MRCPI exams for general medicine. Dr. Tharma will present an introduction to the MRCPI specifically for Malaysian doctors. Dr. Tharma is a parallel pathway state representative and joint regional advisor to the RCPI in Malaysia. This is a live event, so you will have an opportunity to have your questions answered by our panel. For the Q&A session, our panel will be joined by Datuk Dr. Perlis, National Coordinator for Postgraduate Training on the Parallel Pathway and Joint Regional Advisor to RCPI in Malaysia. If you have any questions for our panel, please submit them via the Q&A facility on Zoom, and we will try to get through as many of them as we can. Also, just remember today that all webinar attendees will be entered into a competition to win free access to BMJ on examination. This is a unique online resource to help you prepare for your exam. The next Part 1 GM exam is on the 19th of August, and the closing date for applications is the 23rd of June. If you need any support throughout the application process, you can get in touch with us by email at examinations@rcpi.ie. Now I would like to introduce you to our first speaker, Colm Small. Colm is Head of Training and Education here at the Royal College of Physicians of Ireland. He will spend the next few minutes introducing you to the college, followed by a detailed overview of the MRCPI exams in general medicine. Thank you.
Hello, everybody, and it's a pleasure to meet you today and to present to you on the college and our examinations, and also on Ireland as a country. Okay, I just wanted to give you an overview of Ireland as a country. We've already had an introduction to our colleagues, Dr. Paris and Dr. Tharma, and thanks, Sinead, for the introductions. Maybe just to give you an overview of Ireland, the Republic of Ireland is a population of 5 million people. We're located in Western Europe, so a member of the European Union since the 1970s, and we're a very young, progressive and dynamic economy. We have a very stable environment for business, and we're a world leader in many areas of business, including IT and medical devices. But as a society, we're very rich in our culture, history, and science. So Ireland is a very, 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 very good place to study, and also is a beacon for many of the things that have happened progressively in science and medicine over the centuries. Just a little bit more, we're, unlike Malaysia, a very different climate. It's a temperate maritime climate with the Atlantic Ocean. So a pleasant place to live, just like Malaysia, your beautiful country. The president mentioned there in her introduction some very famous doctors and scientists in Ireland, but just the two to mention again would be Robert Graves, who was a president of our Royal College in the 1800s. So a very famous president, very progressive, and brought the college to a new level. And also obviously a very progressive person in terms of research in medicine and his findings around different diseases, including the name named after him. Another very famous scientist who was Irish was Robert Boyle, who basically in the 1600s invented modern chemistry and also the modern scientific method, which has lasted right through till today. So very rich in medicine and in science, Ireland as a country, and that is reflected in our education and our training as a college. In terms of global importance, specifically in the medical area, we have a huge hub in the world for pharma and for tech. And just to give a couple of examples, 33% of all contact lenses in the world are actually manufactured in our country. And we have many of the top 10 pharmaceutical companies using Ireland as a base for actually their formal operations in Europe and this part of the world. So a very rich history and very progressive in this area. And Pfizer, for example, would be one of the very big companies here, as are Eli Lilly and other very famous companies. As the president mentioned in her introduction, very rich history going back to the mid-1600s. And the college is actually composed of 6 individual faculties. So we have their largest training body in Ireland, and the Institute of Medicine would be the biggest one, covering 18 specialties. But we also have colleagues across pediatrics, obstetrics and gynecology, pathology, and others. So a very diverse and vibrant college, and a lot of colleagues we work with in Ireland and abroad. So what do we offer as a college? We offer lower and higher specialist training to consultant and post-consultant level in all areas of medicine. We have the examinations, which we'll drill into in this presentation and further in the presentation today. We also do a lot of continuing education for doctors as they grow through their career into very senior roles. So we do things around CPD and professional competence. And we also in Ireland as a college and internationally lead out on various clinical programs. For example, in Ireland, we would lead out on the cancer strategy and diabetes and very, very prevalent diseases in society, and are involved in research with those and quality assurance and programs to continually improve the way we treat and manage disease in the community. So we have a global network. We have at any one time 1,500 trainees in Ireland, and we have 3,000 fellows across 90 countries, and we have about 9,000 members. So with the membership exam, you would join that 9,000 or so members spread right across Malaysia, Europe, America, the Australia, Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. So a very, very global group of doctors and our network internationally. So why would you choose our membership exam? So Dr. Tharma will go into it in a little bit more detail, but it is an absolute recognized requirement for the parallel pathway and an access to that pathway. So that's really important for you as doctors coming early in your career in Malaysia. So that will be gone into in a few minutes. One of the reasons to take our membership, unlike others, is that you can actually take this 6 months just after you finish medical school. So you can actually kick off your membership quite early, which is a really good thing, because the part 1 has an element that is actually, some of the questions would be similar enough to what you've just done in your undergrad. So that's a really, really plus that you can do it quite quickly. The other thing which we are very proud of as a college is we actually are the first postgrad medical training body in this part of the world to bring in remote invigilation for our written exams. And we did that over a year ago, in fact, as the pandemic hit. We had already done the prep work. So we have a very stable and really rigorous and really slickly run remote invigilation for the 2 written parts to our membership. We also have, and as the president mentioned, we have Dr. Paris and Dr. Tharma leading out as our representatives in Malaysia, and we have an exam center in KL, your capital. So that's partly there, not only just for the clinical exam, but other meetings we have with members and fellows if you join the college. So that's a really, really important thing. You can do your membership exams in your own time at home for the writtens, and then you will only have to travel to KL for your clinical exam, which will be the final part of the membership. And then finally, but not least, this is an international benchmark of absolute gold standard quality. And it has full recognition as well of the General Medical Council in the UK, and it allows you to fully practice in the UK as a physician. So that's really important, and it's mutually exclusive and recognized between the 2 countries, Great Britain and the Republic of Ireland. So what is the structure of the exam? We have 3 parts. We have a part 1 and a part 2, which are written. And as I said, you take them remotely under invigilation. And then we have the clinical exam. So you must pass each part before progressing to the next phase of the membership. So you can take the written exam in part 1, as I mentioned, straight after medical school. It's a 3-hour paper, computer-based, and it's 100 single best answers. And it covers, as I said, some of the stuff you would have done in your undergrad, including genetics, metabolics, physiology, etc. Now, the part 2 is single best answers as well, but it's over 2 papers. So you do that in the 1 day, and it's 2.5 hours per exam. So it's a full day's examination, very rigorous. And it's also done over computer on your laptop or at work or at home, wherever suits you. The clinical exam then is in person, and you must have obviously passed the part 2 to secure entry into this last part of the examination. And you would do 5 cases in total over just under 2 hours, 2 long and 5 short. And a couple of the short cases then would be around communications and ethics, which is a key part of obviously progressing and honing your skills professionally as a doctor and setting you up for your future career. And we generally do this in KL in the hospital there, the main hospital. Now, under COVID at the moment, we're just reviewing how we can deliver these safely, but we expect to run these clinicals either later this year or early in 2022. So finally, what are the other benefits of the examination and the membership? Its use of that MRCPI is recognized right through the world. We have many graduates and members working in the US, for example, in Australia and other countries. The other important point to make compared to others is we do not have waiting lists. So you can take your writtens as you need them. And then the clinical exams, we've been progressing people through quite quickly. And where you have maybe a 2-year wait list in other membership style exams, not with the Royal College in Ireland. So that's an important thing. You can do them all in your country, which is really important. And I mentioned earlier that large network of doctors right across the world, going back with all that pedigree. And then also with our members, we'd like you to get more involved in the college. So as you progress in your career, we would like people to join as examiners or to join in research and various other groups and activities of the Royal College. So it's more than just having the exam and the letters after your name. So as part of the supports for this exam, we offer continual learning, and we have various webinar series. So joining the membership, you get access to many other features which help you progress your career and to make you a better doctor. And then membership hopefully would lead then to fellowship down the line, which is FRCPI, and again, highly recognized in all tier 1 countries and all countries right through the world with medical systems and healthcare. So a little bit more on the exam itself, and then I'll pass over to Dr. Tharma in terms of the specifics around the parallel pathways. We do give you supports in terms of preparing for these exams, and we do have some online support material which will give you a good understanding of the structure, sample questions, and also some preparation for the way you'd tackle the exam in itself. So these are really important. Any exam you need to prepare well, you need to know what's involved, and you need to know what the sampling is. So we have access, if you apply for the membership, to a lot of online materials in that, okay? And then finally, I'll be available for questions at the end with my colleagues. So it's a pleasure to present to you today, and I really would encourage you to consider our membership. It's probably, along with the UK, the real gold standard in terms of early career as a physician and in terms of benchmarking yourself with your professionalism. So thank you very much.
Hello. Hi everyone, good evening. I'm Dr. Tharmalingam Palanivelu from Hospital Sultan Abdul Halim. I think I will start some sort of a brief description of a parallel pathway. What I suggest from Malaysia point of view, we're suggesting all the participants to start early and complete your housemanship, then gain appointment as a medical officer. The Ministry of Health initially will offer you a contract and then make you a permanent medical post. So what we are suggesting is to start early to gain access to permanent posts. So I will run through the next slide. Why I'm telling you, most of you, I know that you are from the final year medical students and maybe graduates, fresh graduates who was waiting for the posting, maybe houseman and medical officer is as a participant here. What and the survey shows that 25% before you enter the medical school, you want to be cardiologist or nephrologist or a lot of medical oriented, general medicine oriented career. But As you go on to graduation, 25% will decide after the graduation. So more than 50% knew what they're going to do just after the graduation. So the 30% more will be during the houseman posting. Maybe they know by the experience which they are interested, and 15 will decide when the medical officer, which whether it's surgical or medical oriented discipline. So, and of course the 5% decide late, and we go to the next slide. And it is as my colleague Colm described, the part one is multiple choice question. It's a 3 hours exam compared to other paper membership, which is to be 6 hours to 2 papers. And the part two, of course, multiple choice question 5 hours, and the followed by clinical exam twice a year in Malaysia. Let me explain to you. Once you're in a housemanship, you complete, and you need to go through MO for 2 more years under the contract system. What we suggest, you enroll in the part 1 and enter post housemanship as a trainee in the MOH or KKM, Ministry of Health. So to enter as a trainee, you need to have complete part 1. And there is a two pathway to enter the postgraduate medication in Malaysia. One is, of course, it's a university, which is offer you master program, where you need to go and stay there and do your master program. The parallel pathway is the largest pathway other than this university system. It offers you as an alternative pathway, so we call it as a parallel pathway, where during your training in MOH, you upgrade yourself and improve as a post part 1 and part 2, and then clinical exam, and follow the pathway to become a physician. So as you know, you can take part 1 written exam 6 months after graduation. And I suggest you start early. So can we go, we'll go to the next slide and let me explain some more thing. So Ministry of Health is the largest training facility in Malaysia. And it has 90% of the physician trained under the Ministry of Health, under the parallel pathway. And parallel pathway is give you an opportunity to extend your contract as specialist level, to allows you to be registered for the specialist division and under the parallel pathway, then function as physician under the Ministry of Health. So if you do under the general medicine, after you completing your 3 parts of exams and works as a general physician, you will be sub-specialized to cardiologists, neurology, and gastroenterologists, and rheumatology, and so on. So if you have an early decision to be a physician and want to be sub-specialized, you need to be general physician first, but you need to enter this pathway to be a general physician. Next slide, please. Okay. So how to prepare for these exams? So you can prepare as early as after 6 months graduation. And once you decide to be physician pathway, then you can log on to this RCPI pathway by MRCPI Malaysia and register for your exam if you prepare. If you start preparing now, you need to, at least as my experience as a trainer and all that, you need to 4 to 6 months to prepare for your question and answer and get the exam done. I think the next exam is on the 19th of August, which is, and you can apply as a last date for application June 23. This is for the candidate is already prepared. I mean, but if you start preparing now and decide to prepare under the MRCP Island program, then there is after 6 months you have another exam on 27/2022, but also via remote invigilation. So you can start deciding now. As I know, all the participants from the various level in the medical profession. Now you may be a final year medical student or houseman or MO. So I'm just going through how you do your preparation now. So the study material available for us and under the RCPI website. So you can do a free online. Let's go through some question of 180 practice question, and you can purchase through the on examination com, which is more suitable for the MRCPI questions. And of course, in KL, you have a Kamal bookstore, where you can purchase few other basic science books and start preparing yourself. And of course, there are question banks from the RCPI. Once you applied and prepared and applied for the part 1, and you're successful applied as a part 1 candidate, you have a question banks available once you register as a part 1 candidate. So why we are talking about this parallel pathway and training? Parallel pathway actually is a part of professional training under the umbrella of MOH, Ministry of Health. We have our own section under the medical profession section, where we train our own physician and going through all the parallel pathway and examinations and the practical. So once you are qualified and you have a part 1 and you must be post housemanship, you can register to medical Malaysian government or MOH as a trainee officers. So you will be given a ticket as a parallel pathway candidate, and so on. You will be monitored by the fully accredited training sites in one of the hospital. The hospital may be from North Kanga to Johor, East Coast and East Malaysia. So all these places, we have our own trainees before, and now they become trainers under me and Dr. Paras under the RCPI. We have every hospital, general hospital in Malaysia. So you have a support system placed for the trainees. And for this, you have to undergo the logbook and everything. So it is a flexible pathway for you to be a physician first compared to a master program. So that's why 85 to 90% of physicians qualified in Malaysia through this parallel pathway. Okay, so after you completing, you'll be membership. We call MRCPI. You're given membership, then you will be you can apply to be fellow after a few years. Then you become a prestigious fellow of Royal College of Physicians of Ireland. So under the RCPI, we have a close collaboration with between a Malaysian Medical Association, Parallel Pathway Postgraduate Subcommittee. So we collaborate with all the organization and student organization to help the young doctors to be trained as the physician. Next slide, please. Okay, so to recapture this, part 1 runs 3 times in a year in Malaysia, online, on everywhere internationally. The next exam is, of course, 19. If you prepare, please apply before 23rd June. And the useful link on examination.com, the other links are past test.com. And of course, we have MRCP pass.com and so on, past medicine and com. So let me tell you why some of the advantage for you in this pandemic era to take the MRCPI compared to other membership examination in general medicine. So of course, it is a first RCPI developed online examination. So you no need to travel to one place to another place during pandemic area. Let's say you work as a houseman. So you can, in your workplace or in the hospital, in the house, you can take up the examination under the virtual monitoring or remote invigilation. Number 2, the support is additional support given by the RCPI in view of question banks. And then the training support is given for the clinical examination when you reach part 3 or the clinical examination. We have a number of examination and training camps in all the hospitals in Malaysia. So you will be trained accordingly until you become a physician in Malaysia. Then you can carry on your pathway, your career pathway, subspecialty, you want to be anything, cardiologist, nephrologist, and so on. And that's how you should plan your career early, so that another message I want to tell, I need to remind you, is your houseman waiting period is 8 to 12 months. During this period, after 6 months of graduation, you are qualified to write part 1. You need to apply. So please prepare as if you have decided to be physician from now onwards, and you can enter the examination very fast. Then the advantage is that when you're going to be employed as a permanent doctors in Malaysia, compared to a houseman, you don't have a part 1, and a houseman who have a part 1 in medicine, of course, the ministry, after interviewing you, will prefer you to be their trainee. So this is one of the advantages. So it is a bit competitive environment. Next slide, please. And thank you to joining me. And Dr. Paras will do the question and answer section. And I will take up all the question with as a panelist. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Tharma. Thank you, Colm. I hope everybody found their talks helpful. So our panel is now available to answer any questions regarding the MRCPI exams, the structure, the process, and the benefits to you for taking the membership. So at this point, we are delighted to be joined for this section of the webinar by Dr. Paras, who is the National Coordinator for Postgraduate Training on the Parallel Pathway, and he is also a joint regional advisor to RCPI in Malaysia. So welcome, Dr. Paras.
Hi, thank you very much, Sinead. Thank you very much, Colm, and thank you to the Irish team. All right, you guys are having a good morning. For us, it's evening. It's nice to see at close to 8:30 p.m. we still have 114 people who are interested and attending this webinar. That is fantastic. So to all our panelists and to those who are listening in, I hope you all have benefited a lot from learning about how the Irish exams are conducted here. There is a lot of, there are lots of questions, lots of misconceptions about the MRCPI and MRCP UK, but they are two very distinct examinations, and the MRCP Ireland is an extremely robust system, and it has the 3 parts in Malaysia. A very popular question, I believe, and I'm pretty sure it'll pop up on the panel very shortly. And let's have a word from Sinead. What is the main difference between the MRCPI and the MRCP UK, besides the I and the UK?
There isn't really a huge amount of difference, to be honest, Paras. Both exams are both exams have 3 parts to them. Both exams are comparable in terms of structure, format, being blueprinted to the curriculum in both jurisdictions. So obviously the Irish exam is blueprinted to the curriculum, the Irish training curriculum. That blueprint can actually be found within the regulations, which are on our website. So if anybody wanted to go in and have a look at the blueprint from the part 1 or the part 2 medicine, you will find the breakdown in our regulations. You will also find the Irish curriculum, a copy of the Irish curriculum on the website as well under the training section. So anybody who wants to look at that can go in and view it online. I suppose the main difference between the two and the benefit to candidates taking the Irish exam is that you can take it 6 months post-primary medical degree. In the UK, it's 12 months. So candidates can start their journey to membership qualification a lot sooner with the Irish exam than they can with the UK exam. I suppose the other benefit, especially in living with COVID at the moment, is that all our exams internationally and here held in Ireland are now done by remote invigilation. So I think with the UK, my understanding is that internationally the exam people still have to travel to a large test centre to sit the exam there. And the Irish exam membership is also recognised by the General Medical Council in the UK as well. So you know, that's a great benefit, I think, for the Irish exam. And obviously, once somebody, you know, passes all three components, it leads to membership of the Royal College of Physicians of Ireland and the use of the post-nominal MRCPI.
One more thing to add to Sinead is that the UK examination, longer waiting period for the clinical examination because the number of candidates are huge. And Irish MRCPI for the clinical examination, you don't need to wait in a queue, and it's done to whoever applied. That is one of the advantages the candidates need to consider to be in whether it's a UK program or Irish program, and both are internationally recognized.
That's correct, Dr. Tharma. So you guys heard it. You join in faster, you can do your first exam 6 months, as opposed to the UK exam, which is 1 year. And yes, when it comes to the clinical examination, because the exams were suspended, it's going to be tougher to get a slot on the UK exam. But for the Irish exam, you would not face that problem. It would be easier to get the slots available. So you have a very good chance of clearing your MRCP island on a faster rate. And now when time is of the essence, because everyone is worried about the contracts, I'm sure all of you as house officers are worried about the contracts. If you have cleared your MRCP and you're already a physician right through the MRCPI, you will definitely be in a better position to be rewarded with a permanent post as opposed to just being awarded a contract. All right, those are the main differences. A very important question which some of you will definitely have is, how is the exam marked? So let's hear from Sinead and Colm on the exam marking. If you guys are persistent and if you spam the Q&A box, maybe Sinead will give you some clues, some insider information on how to pass the examination if we are lucky. Yes?
Oh, I don't think my job is worth that, Paris. But no, like these are high stakes exams, you know, so we have very strict marking criteria, standard setting processes around all components of the exam, as you would expect for high stakes exams in any medical college. You know, the pass, I suppose it's important for candidates to know that the pass rate is not fixed for the exam. We use a standard, you know, we use a standard setting formula as opposed to a blank 50% pass mark. And as I said before, it is blueprinted to the Irish curriculum, and you will find that in the regulations. But I suppose for the written exam, some of the key things to note is that you know, for the part 1, there's 100 questions. There's no negative marking. So we advise we advise everyone to answer all the questions, because, you know, even if you guess it, you have a 1 in 5 chance of it being right. So there is no negative marking. So as I said, we do encourage everyone to answer all the questions. Every question is worth 1 mark. So it is important to answer them all. And as I said, you know, the pass mark is set around a standard setting format or formula. And that is to ensure that, you know, the standard remains consistent from one diet to the next, because there are 3 diets in any given year for the part 1 and the part 2 written. And again, the part 1 it has more basic sciences questions, which the part 2 tends to test more in-depth clinical knowledge. So the vignettes or the scenarios at the top, they tend to be longer for the part 2 than they do for the part 1. And the part 2 probably covers a wider range of topics as well. So oncology, hepatology, stuff like that, that isn't covered in the part 1. And then I suppose for the clinical exams, you know, you're given, there's 7 stations. So there's 5 long stations and there's 5 short cases, and then there's 2 long cases that every candidate has to sit in the clinical. And each of the cases have certain skills which are marked at each of the stations. So it's either, you know, clinical judgment, or you know, the like. So there are a number of skills which people are assessed on. There's also a global assessment applied at the end of the mark sheet, which examiners have to complete. And you know, as I said, each case is marked independently. And I think it's important for candidates to know, certainly in my experience of going to clinical exams, both here in Ireland and internationally, is often candidates will come out of a station and say, oh, I performed really badly in that station. I didn't feel it went well. And I suppose we want to reassure candidates that just because you don't perform well on one station or you fail a station, that doesn't mean you will fail the exam overall. So I think it's important for people to know that. And in advance of the clinical exam taking place on the morning, all the cases are calibrated for difficulty by the examiner, so that a pass mark is assigned to each of the cases. You know, and that's to ensure consistency throughout the exam and consistency with the examiners. And then at the end, when we get all the mark sheets back, we do a lot of analysis, you know, for fairness and difficulty and consistency of marking for each of the exam diets. So I hope that has answered some questions.
Thank you, Sinead. I'm sure that was useful. Dr. Tharma, do drop in if there's any information that you'd like to add as well. But I think the next question, Dr. Tharma, I think the candidates often have the same question, and I believe they WhatsApp us all the time, and they ask the same thing. How do you prepare for the MRCPI?
Okay.
Sinead and Dr. Tharma, how would you like to tell the candidate prepare best for the MRCPI?
Yeah. Okay. So it's very easy. You need to go through the exam questionnaires. So you need, from my experience as a trainer for the part, maybe both parts, and also UK, I'm also a trainer for that. So you need 4 to 6 months to prepare. 4 months, from my experience, if you put 2 hours in a day, and 6 months if you put 1.5 hours a day. So you need to have that time to prepare a number of questions going through, whether you're going through our question banks RCPI or whether you're going through the on examination. For me, I have interviewed many candidates. On examination is more friendly for the MRCPI part 1. You can purchase another one past test, and accordingly you can train. So you need to have that 4 months training. So what I suggest for the Malaysian candidates, as long as you if you're a fresh graduate or all that, you can start at least buy one of these and do a question first. Then be confident within the 4-6 months, you can apply for your part 1 MRCP Island. Therefore, the MRCP RCPI also assists in the question banks once you register as a candidate. So this is you can do in your workplace and everything. So you need to do a number of questions to make you confident and carry on the part 1. And after your confidence of the 4 months, please apply for the examination, and we will assist you once you applied for the part 1.
So Dr. Tharma said, if you want to prepare for the MRCPI, first and foremost, I think you guys need to be very clear that time is of the essence. 6 months after your MBBS, if you are more than 6 months after your MBBS, you are already losing time. And as you all know, the early bird catches the worm. whichever country you're in, the birds still wake up early. And if you're fast, whether you're vegetarian or vegan, you don't want the worm, that's fine. All right. But you have to catch the worm. All right. It's a rat race out there. Believe me, everyone is on contract posts and everyone wants to get extended into a permanent post. So there was a question saying that if I get the MRCP, will my contract definitely be extended? Now the MOH is drafting the regulations, but there is no official announcement. But it would make sense that you would be in a theoretically better position if you are already an MRCPI graduate compared to someone who is not even in the pathway at all. There is no absolute guarantee of getting a permanent post, but you are definitely in a higher position. You are definitely ahead of those who have not done anything at all in the parallel pathway. So the advice would be, do not worry about whether you're going to be getting that permanent post or not, because you are definitely in a better position than the others. Go for it. The MRCPI is not only recognized in Malaysia, it is also recognized in other countries. If you ever do plan to go to the UK, Ireland especially, you will still have an opportunity, especially in Ireland, with the MRCPI. As Dr. Tharma mentioned, yes, there are lots of websites out there. Sign up for them. They don't cost an arm and a leg. You also have free exams for those of you who want to save money and who are kiasu. You have those examination lists on the MRCP Ireland website. Go and do those questions first, and they will give you a flavor of the sort of questions that are going to come out, and they will help you read around the topics that do usually come out on the exams. All right. Now, a question that often is asked, do I need to take the exams in sequence? Dr. Tharma and Sinead, would you like to tell them?
The answer to that is yes, you do. So you need to sit the part 1, pass that, move on to the part 2 written. Once you're successful in that, move on to the clinical exam. I think maybe with the UK exam, I think you can take them out of sequence, but for MRCPI, no, you must do part 1, 2 written and clinical. But most people can obtain full MRCPI within 12 months.
I just want to add on to the first question of Paras asked about assuring your place as a permanent job. I'm also active in a Malaysian Medical Association and a student and young doctor from Malaysian. What we get info is that even if you're not offered a permanent job, definitely we are working through from the SCOMOS and Malaysian Medical Association, those doctors who have this part 1 qualification allowed to extend their contract. That is the most important quote I need to talk, because I'm involved in the working for the doctors of Malaysian Medical Association and so on, also experience in 20 years in sort of fighting for doctors. So what we suggest from our association and Young Doctor Association is that if you are not given the permanent post, never mind, because it depends on your background, how you did the houseman and all that, and the supply and demand. But you may be allowed to extend your contract. Now your contract is 4 years. 2+ for houseman and 2+ to complete, so that your annual practitioner certificate as a undergraduate doctor or GP. So, but once you have this kind of qualification, you can apply to extend your contract in MOH until you finish your physician. This is how we are working through MMA, all that. This is a very important point I need to remind the young doctors here. Thank you. And sorry to disturb, because I need to, this is a very important point we need to tell all the young doctors in Malaysia. Okay, Paras?
Yes, Dr. Tharma, I agree. Definitely, as you said, the government is not going to leave everyone in the lurch. Definitely, there will be an option. And those with the MRCPI will be in the best position to advance. Definitely, it is a point in your favor. Correct? So do I need to take the exam in sequence? Yes, you do, right? Very importantly, 1, 2, 3, all right? It doesn't work. 3 doesn't come before 2, all right? It is definitely 1 and then 2 and then 3. How many attempts at the MRCPI do I have? Sinead, what's the latest number in terms of requirements, especially with the COVID pandemic going on? I believe many people will have queries as to the validity and also as to how many attempts they will be able to do in that validity period?
So each candidate still has 6 attempts to pass each component of the exam. But I want to stress that, most candidates who sit MRCPI do not need all of those attempts to pass the exam. And candidates must pass the part 1 within 6 years of their first attempt. So, and I suppose just with COVID, we are looking at these rules and extensions on a case-by-case basis, because obviously there are a number of candidates who have been waiting to sit the final clinical component. So, we are looking at those candidates on a case-by-case basis, and where we need to extend the time, we are doing that, because obviously it's not the candidate's fault that we haven't been able to run a clinical exam or whatnot. So, but as I want to stress though, most people do not need all those attempts, and most people pass within the rules that are applied.
Can I come in there as well, Dr. Paris? And thanks, Sinead. There's a few questions there on, will we be running the clinical exams in the near future in Malaysia, because some people are actually, at that stage in the membership. And the answer is the college is 100% committed to bringing back the exam as soon as it is A, possible, and B, safe to do so. So we have currently in the college a short review of the exams, the clinical exams, both in Ireland and internationally. And we have brought the exams back in Ireland since last November, and we've done it successfully in November and just 2 months ago. And also we're doing some diets of the clinical exams this month, but we will be making an announcement probably the end of next month on when we can hope to bring the Malaysian offering back. And also we offer it in other countries in the world, but we're 100% committed to doing it and working obviously with Dr. Paris and Dr. Tharma on that. So just to reassure you, this isn't this is a priority of our college to offer the clinical exams, because we're conscious of people progressing in their career and having passed the first 2 parts of the membership. So just to mention that, it's important.
Thank you very much, Colm. Connection timed out. Malaysian internet, yes, we all are aware. But hopefully, unlike Malaysian internet that comes and goes, the Irish College has been a steady presence since 1996 in Malaysia. There has been no break in the connection between the Irish College and Malaysia. So for those of you who do embark on the MRCP Irish pathway, you can rest assured that the part 1 and part 2, the invigilation is already online. Hence, there should be no problems with the exam delivery. The clinical examination, there was a question on how moving forward. So with the pandemic going down, definitely exams should be delivered. It's a question of finding the right mix between the right hospital that is not involved in the COVID pandemic, and also ensuring that it's a sufficient case mix to deliver the exam. A question that often pops up, is there a difference between the paper-based exams and the computer-based exams, which are conducted via remote invigilation?
I can answer that one if you like, but no, the short answer is no. There is absolutely no difference between a paper-based exam and a computer-based exam conducted via remote invigilation. The exam is exactly the same in terms of structure, length, content, format. So you should prepare in the same way as normal. The only real difference to you is that instead of traveling to an exam center to sit your exam at a computer with 50, 60 other people, you take it at home or in a secure place, an office environment that has a good Wi-Fi connection, but absolutely not. The content and the paper is exactly the same. And candidates are, instead of having an invigilator walking around, you have an invigilator on your screen who is, supervising the exam throughout the whole exam. So there is absolutely no difference at all. And I think, as Colm said, we've been running these exams now since March of last year, with the membership ones coming online in since June. And you know, we've had, I think, about 4,000 people now at this stage take their exams via remote invigilation. So it's a very secure, and most importantly with COVID, it's a very safe method of delivery for doctors.
Can I just add to that as well, is that Ireland, I mentioned this in the presentation, is one of the world leaders in technology, and it's an IT hub worldwide. So Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, LinkedIn, they're all, Ireland and Dublin is their headquarters outside of the US. And the company we use for remote invigilation is a world leader as well. They're an Irish company, in fact. And as Sinead said, we're over a year doing this very safely and very efficiently for our candidates. And several of the Royal Colleges in England have actually copied us, like the Royal College of Psychiatry, Emergency Medicine. So it's a very robust, and by taking it, there is actually no diminution. Oh, this is an inferior exam or type. It's not. This is the way exams are going to go, high stakes in all walks of life, in law, business, accountancy, and also in medicine. So to reassure everybody, it's the same exam as Sinead said, and it's just a different way of sitting it. And it's actually a safer and a more convenient way.
Absolutely. I echo exactly what Colm and Sinead have been saying. The examinations are exactly the same. And just to let you know, I have also done online examinations, not the MRCP Island though, but I can tell you that the questions are similar. And in fact, I believe it is far less stressful. It is better because, number one, you don't have to worry about travel restrictions in the light of COVID. You don't have to check 1 week before whether the area where you're going to is a red zone or whether your travel restrictions will apply to you. You don't have that stress, number one. Number two, you will be in the comfort of your home, or you will be somewhere where you have good internet connection. You don't have to worry about getting to the exam site on time. You don't have to worry about being caught in traffic before your exam. Believe me, doing an online examination from the comfort of wherever you are is far more conducive. All right. Whether you pass or not, that's a different question. That depends on how well you're prepared. But what I can say is that you will definitely stand a higher chance if you were comfortable, knowing that the examination is online. The questions are the same. The time is the same. The images might be even clearer because you don't have to worry about a printout. You're going to get a digital image in front of you. All right. And you don't have to worry about missing sheets, missing papers. It's far better. So online invigilation definitely is the way forward. Every country is embracing it. And I think that it is good to note that the Irish did it before the UK. All right. Usually people say that the British got it before the Irish, right? But in this situation, I can tell you the Irish got it right before the British. All right. They started the online examination first. Colm will beg to differ. I'm sure there are many things that the Irish did before the Brits. Yes, but this was one of them. All right. The online examination started off with them, and they've done it in a good way. They've really delivered the exams consistently since last year, and they continue to do it this year.
One more advantage I want to add online. Last time when we were writing exams, we need to apply for the leaves from your superior, 2-3 days to travel, you know. Now, some of them will be a houseman and some of them will be a MO or this one. So as a remote vigilation, you can just, you know, sit there about 3 to 4 hours and finish it off. So no worry about during your housemanship, you need to apply leave, all that. That's one of the advantage when you are in service of a houseman or MO.
And I think you've hit the nail on the head. And the other thing which is interesting, it just shows you the global footprint of our exam, like some of the others, is the number of countries that our candidates are sitting these remotely. I mean, countries, obviously the US, Canada, Middle East, but Africa, right through to Malaysia, into Australia. So it's a global recognized qualification. And the beauty of it is, as Paris and Tharma have said, is you don't have to travel and you don't have to be getting extra time off work and negotiating the stress around that and all the expense of that. You can sit it at a time that's going to work for you. So in your house or your office or wherever that's best for you to sit the exam when it's on.
Exactly. I mean, when I did my online examination, I had a bottle of Levita next to me. All right, you need that sugar boost. you had your Starbucks coffee next to you, you're in clothes that are comfortable, you don't have to worry about, freezing yourself in an air-conditioned examination room. So basically, you're in front of the computer, you are well prepared, you are primed to deliver the best performance that you can to pass the examination. And online is the way forward. The faster we embrace it, the better it will be. There have been lots of questions, and I believe that we will get to the questions in due course, because there are many, many questions. And I think the sheer number of questions do indicate that we have an audience that is engaged. Often when you go for webinars, you will find the Q&A section will be empty. All right, and that tells you that people are either switched off or people have no questions to ask. But there are many questions, and we will get to them. But what I would like to do before we end is to summarize the benefits of doing the MRCPI. Me and Dr. Tharma both have the MRCPI. And just to clarify, I've got the MRCPI and the MRCP UK, so I have no conflict of interest. So when I do tell you that both the exams are equal and none is inferior to the other, believe me when I tell you that. Ireland may be smaller than UK, but in terms of the examination that you're sitting, they're both equal. And in Malaysia, it's not to say that the UK or the Irish are superior in any way. It's a prestigious qualification, definitely. Getting the MRCP Ireland is recognized by the GMC. I think that is the biggest game changer. Up until recently, the MRCP Irish qualification was not recognized in the UK, meaning that if you did the MRCPI, correct, Dr. Tharma, you can only go to Dublin. Your ticket has to say Ireland. That's it.
Now
all right.
GMC recognized.
Yes. If you want to travel to the UK, you can travel on a tourist visa. That's about it. All right. Forget about working there. But now with the GMC recognition, all right, you will be eligible to work there. And sorry. Okay, so you will be eligible to work there, and I think that makes a big difference. All right, so you have GMC recognition.
Other thing,
yes.
Other thing, Paras, I'd like to add on. We are a better organized small group of RCPI candidates, and we are closely connected, and then able to help each other. And I already posted all the trainees in every state, so that when they pass, they are looked after accordingly. So number two, the support given by the RCPI is much more, from my experience it's a better deal, I say, to follow the RCPI. So that's one of the advantage for the Malaysian candidates, throughout the world. As we are connected by the MMA, the Student Association, the training centers, and we are in a small group. So we will look after by the trainees in a very better manner, if you ask me, in the future. I think that's most important here. And then we are closely connected.
Yes, that is true. It's a small community, but when it is a small community, it also means that we know one another. Me and Dr. Tharma, probably we know all the people who've graduated with the MRCPI in Malaysia. It's a good network, and Dr. Tharma is a very, if you look at him, he looks like a very comfortable, like a bear. He takes care of you. He's a big papa bear, all right? So if you've got any problems in Malaysia, you voice it out to him, he will fight it out for you. And at least you know who to approach when you have any problems regarding the MRCPI in Malaysia. We're a small group. We will take care of you, and we know all the trainees. So I think that makes a big difference, knowing that there is someone watching out for you. And for me, the main thing would be that this is the entry for the parallel pathway. And you can do it 6 months after you finish your MBBS. Now, in the Q&A, there were many questions asking the same thing. What happens if you get extended as a house officer? So when you get extended as a house officer, that means that you will finish and become a medical officer that many months later. But it does not affect your entry. You can still do the MRCP Ireland Part 1 6 months after your MBBS, irrespective of the number of extensions that you have had. But you can only register for the parallel pathway once you're an MO. All right, you must become a medical officer and you must have your Part 1. Those two are necessary. So it means that if you get extended as a house officer, yes, it may potentially delay your registration into the part 1. Registration for the parallel pathway. But take the opportunity and clear your part 1 examination during your housemanship as fast as possible. Now, the part 1 can be taken at 6 months. Don't forget that. And of course, all 3 components can be done in Malaysia. I think that is the biggest thing. You don't have to go overseas to do the exam. It can be done in Malaysia. So irrespective of what happens in terms of travel restrictions going abroad, you know that you have the option of doing the examination in Malaysia. Now, if you plan to see Sinead or you want to say hello to Colm in Dublin, by all means, they're very nice. All right. If you want to stay over at their house, I think if you pay a nominal fee, Sinead will accommodate. All right. So, and if you want to see Dublin and you want to see the Guinness Brewery, by all means, that is always an option that's available on the table. But for those who are less adventurous and those who would like to, stay within Malaysia, yes, the exam is available locally. Now, when we say that the Irish exam is easier to deliver than the UK, we're not saying that the exam is inferior in terms of quality. It just means that the UK examination has a substantial backlog and they're trying to clear that backlog, whereas the Irish also does have its own backlog, but it is easier to secure a spot because we're dealing with a smaller community and we can easily expand to cope with the extra numbers. So if you do register now, you don't have to worry about the clinical exams being delivered now because you'll be doing the exams 1 or 2 years later. And by then, this COVID pandemic will be over, things will be clearer, and you'll be able to do the exams definitely within Malaysia.
Paris, right? I've an interesting one I just thought of. This is sort of a bigger geopolitical one as well. Is we all know that the UK left the European Union last year at the end of 2020, and Ireland and the UK are mutually recognised. So that's important. What we just mentioned about the General Medical Council and having MRCPI allows you practice in England, no problem. But having the MRCPI means you have an Irish Royal College qualification, which automatically then gives you interesting rights within the EU, perhaps, for your career. So these are interesting things that have happened geopolitically, even with Brexit, that you have a qualifications anchored also in the European Union. So it's an interesting side effect of Brexit, just to say this today, because it's a longer term issue.
All right, so it means that those of you who want to practice in Greece and those who want to head to Santorini, you've got another traveling option that just came up, all right, perhaps, with Brexit.
It's no harm that the Irish qualification happens also to be a member of the European Union. So it's an interesting one that will flesh out over the next few years. But it is and that's an interesting one to just keep in terms of longer term career. If you want to be a fellow of our college and also obviously a fellow of the British College, it gives you more access to different things.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, Paras, I need to add other things. We are going to increase, the centers also. We are standbying few other hospitals to do our clinical exam. So basically, from the north, maybe we identified Dr. Paras in a hospital now as a standby for any pandemic, any problems. So not only KL, there are many 2 other hospitals identified as the centers. So in case there's a problem with the KL for clinical exam, we will shift to north, so on. So I think the candidates should not worry about that, as long as we have a backup plan for the clinical exams during these 1 and 2 years during the pandemic. So that's important to know also. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. That's a great option that's available on the table. So if push comes to shove, there will be backup options in terms of clinical centers to conduct the examinations. Absolutely. All right.
And so, Paris, I think in one of the Q&As, there's a question there. Is there a difference between PACES and the clinical, the Irish clinical? They're the same exam. They're just called different. I think, PACES it's what they call their practical exam, but they're both clinicals and they're both the third, the final kind of piece of the jigsaw before membership. But both of them are clinical exams.
The other thing I need to add on, Sinead, in this is this. I'm an examiner for both. I think they are identical. I mean, now after the PACES and then We rearranged recently about 2 years ago. I think the format is almost identical, for your clinical. We call it as clinical MRCPI. They call it the PACES. That's that's a different. Otherwise, if you compare both, it is 90% identical, 90% same. So for the
Sure.
candidate,
Yeah, absolutely, Tharma. And I think it's important to note as well, just the UK, actually the PACES exam, the Irish exam before COVID happened, we used all real patients for our short cases and our long cases. The UK used a mix of real patients and surrogates. And I think it's important to note that before COVID happened, the UK were actually looking to change the format of their exam to be more in line with the Irish exam, and to increase the number of patient interaction in their clinicals. So, but then COVID happened, and that format change was delayed, but they were looking to align themselves more with the Irish exam. But they, as you said, Tharma, they are very, very similar.
Exactly. You took it out of my mouth, Sinead. So the UK examination and the Irish examination. So I think the Irish were there first with the UK. So the Irish, you all may be aware, you've got 2 long cases and you've got 5 short cases. So the British exam, you've got the PACES examination. So the PACES 2020, as some of you may be familiar, which has not launched yet, was shifting towards the Irish system as well, whereby you would be having 2 long cases or longer clinical encounters, similar to what the Irish exam is as well. So it means that what you are getting in terms of the Irish exam is probably what the British will be doing in a few years. So you are doing it now. You're getting a better examination. And if you ask me, if you do the PACES examination, you have 10 minutes per station. In that 10 minutes, you examine for 6 minutes, and you have less than 4 minutes, depending on how fast you finish, to present. So within that short period of time, you have to get the answer correct. So it's either a hit or a miss. Whereas the Irish examination with the long cases, you actually have a chance to have a discussion with the examiner. And you're able to justify why you said B rather than A. And it is a more holistic exam because, to be honest, that's how we normally practice in ward rounds, isn't it? You justify, you present to your consultant, and you tell them that this is what I feel, and this is probably the reason why I feel it's B and not A, and then you progress along those lines. So similar to that, the clinical examination for the Irish has also adopted a similar technique, and it is more like what you would have it in real life. So in my opinion, the Irish examination with the long and the shorts get it better. It's more real life, and it actually replicates what you'll be doing eventually in the future. So I think that's a plus point for the Irish examination system when it comes to the clinical exam. Dr. Tharma will agree, we do both, and we both feel that we always enjoy the Irish exam more than the UK exam.
We do both, but no problem of all the candidates, whether they train in the UK or Irish, because most of the examiners, all the superiors in all the hospitals, they're well versed of it, the Irish exam, and I already educate a few groups of them on the long cases, how we're going to, because we are preparing the UK people for long cases, the new, unfortunately, because post-pandemic it is not done. So don't worry whether you're in a UK system or Irish system, it is almost same, and the way we train also is also same, and you can face both exams from the same hospital with variant of candidates from UK, and the training will be given to you all, and all the mock examination or training parts will be done accordingly and for all the candidates, whether you're Irish as you register as Irish for the training or others. So don't worry about that in part of your, whether I'm an Irish program, I'm a UK program. So that's one of the things I need to highlight here. Okay, thanks, Paras.
No problem. Thank you, Dr. Tharma. All right, if you need, Colm, there are lots of questions still coming up in the Q&A. We will definitely be typing out the answers to them, but one question that keeps on popping up is, how is the part 1 different from the part 2? I think there are lots of questions available on the MRCP Ireland website. Have a look at them. They'll give you a good idea of how the part 1 examination questions are and the part 2. and how they are being pitched and the level that you would be expected to be at. Marking scheme and passing marks for clinical exam. You will need to buy coffee for Sinead and Colm if you want to have a look at the marking scheme and if you want to see what the passing marks are like. But of course, the passing marks are norm reference. So I think you all are aware of norm referencing. They look at the batch, they see, so there's a standard that is set before the exam. Every question is looked at in terms of difficulty. They come up with an expected mark that would be applied to the examination. And then you have a bell curve showing all the marks of the candidates. So there's no fixed passing mark for a clinical exam. It's not like it's 51 or 50 or 49. It's not like the PACES exam whereby you need a score of, for example, 142 out of 160 to pass the exam. And that score is fixed every exam. It doesn't work like that for the Irish exam, all right? It's norm reference as it always is. How's the pathway like? Now, the parallel pathway is separate from the Irish examination. All right, they're two separate things. But the Irish examination is the key to unlock the parallel pathway. Getting the Irish exam part 1 will unlock your chance to access the parallel pathway. And once you're in the parallel pathway, you all are aware, it's 48 months. 48 months of training. And after the completion of the 48 months of training, you will then be eligible for gazettement, which is 6 months. All right. So that should answer a lot of questions on the Q&A. It's 48 months of training after you clear your part 1, after which you have to then complete 6 months of gazettement before you sign up on the NSR. The NSR is a National Specialist Registry in Malaysia. With the NSR, you would then be a recognized physician in the Ministry of Health.
There's one interesting question. Is the MRCPI recognized in Singapore? I think Sinead and Colm, can you just address this?
The short answer is I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. My understanding in Singapore is that they use the MRCP UK exam as a kind of benchmark for exams there. So the Irish exam is recognised by the UK. So that would lead me then to think it would be recognised in Singapore. But I wouldn't be 100% confident in answering that question myself. So apologies for that. But what I can do is I can look it up and email the person in question with back once I find out.
I agree with Sinead. In Singapore, the postgraduate examination, the MED, the Singapore MED examination is linked to the MRCP UK exam. So candidates who are doing the postgraduate in internal medicine in Singapore, all of them will be signed up for the Masters in Medicine. So the MED examination is currently linked to the MRCP UK exam at the moment. But of course, I think with the UK Brexit and with the Irish gaining GMC recognition, it is not too a remote possibility. It will not be a remote possibility. The MRCP Island could be a possible could achieve possible recognition within Singapore.
The other thing I need to add on this: whoever qualified in Malaysia as a physicians, they have a good reputation in Singapore. You know? So I think once you qualified here, that will be a reference point to work in Singapore, whether you're UK or not. We are your membership candidates. So this is same for UK and Irish. So once you qualified as a physician, Malaysian Medical Council, and they will recognize certain things by the Malaysian Medical Council. So I don't think so. You may have any problem working in Singapore with the MRCPI, since you are recognized by the MMC here as a physician. Many of my colleagues are still working in Singapore. So this much I can tell. But the other answer is, like Sinead said, she will find out for you, since a new development that it is MRCPI is recognized by GMC.
All right, there's a question: is it too early to apply for the August exam if you graduated end of March? Mathematics, all right, please, 6 months, April, May, June, July, August, September. Well, unless you're graduation at end of March becomes magically end of February, I think you would be eligible to apply for the examination. But I think you just add 6 months, and if not end of March, I mean, if August is not a possibility, don't worry. You have the exams being offered 3 diets a year. You can sign up for the exam, any one of the 3 diets, and the earliest one that is applicable to you, go for it. All right, apply. A hint of advice: a lot of you will feel not ready for the exam. I'm sure Dr. Tharma feels the same way. We felt the same way. We never felt like we were ready for the exam, but that is a universal feeling that all of you will have. In reality, you will never be ready. You will always be learning. Me and Dr. Tharma are learning until today. However, the learning process is different from the examination process. All right. The part 1 is a fair exam. It is meant to be an entry to a subspecialty training. My advice would be put your money down. All right. Beg, borrow, steal. Get the money. Look at the market exchange rate. When you feel that the euro is dipping, make the payment. All right. So that you have the minimal damage to your wallet. All right. But sign up for the exam. Put your money where your mouth is. Once you pay up for it, you will definitely start studying for it. Sign up for 1 or 2 websites that have the exam questions in terms of the bank, and go for it. All right. There's only one way, and that is forward. If you do not clear that immediate attempt, whatever you have learned for that part 1 will be still applicable for the second attempt. And remember that you are consolidating your knowledge for the part 2 clinical. So you're not really losing out. If you're going to do the exam a first or second time, it's going to serve as a way of actually remembering that information better when you come to the part 2 examination. So Dr. Tharma, someone has asked what's the cost of each session. I believe that information, yes, Sinead and Colm, will be on the MRCP Island website. It'll be quoted in euros, guys. So if you want it in ringgit, you have to do the conversion yourself in terms of ringgit. All right, the cost for each session. It does not go up or down. All right, it does. In terms of the Irish, they're pretty fixed about it. If that's the price for the year, that's the price for the year. If the COVID pandemic comes or goes, I think the price remains the same. The only thing is you have to look at the exchange rate and see how much that you'll be paying in terms of ringgit.
There's one question that they asked. There's one part 2 candidate who says that there's no training facility MRCPI clinical. I think if you have the mock exam for the UK and Irish, they are similar. If you want assistance, definitely you can contact us. Contact me in Hospital Sultan Abdul Halim. I will identify for you for attachment or something post-pandemic. I mean, let's the MCO rules. MCO rules are down. Then we can do for something for you. You need to contact me. I'm the Hospital Sultan Abdul Halim, consultant physician, and then I will assist you how to help you out, because we always support the clinical examination. What you have to expose is the 2 long cases. Others are almost similar, and we need to expose you the techniques of the long cases. That's all. So far, I have assisted many of the candidates where especially they will attach in my hospital to train for the long cases, or some sort of like training can be given, because all of us under the MOH or KKM, we are under the same government. So your head of the department must give you some, some time to be practice under another hospital. So we can connect each other, get connected, and we can assist on you. Thanks. Thank you.
So Dr. Tharma is there in Sultanabaya in Kedah. I'm there in Kanga. So basically it's a northern gravitation. All right. So pretty close to the northern part of Malaysia. But yes, with email, we'll be more than happy to guide. There are lots of questions on what books do we use. Personally, I feel that any book works. All right. It's not really the book that matters. It's how you read it and how you actually extract the information. But from personal experience, I have found that Kalra has always been useful, and also Kumar and Clark. I'm aware that maybe Dr. Tharma might be a Davidson's fan. As we all know, the world is divided into 2, isn't it? Those who like Davidson's, those who like Kumar and Clark. I was a Kumar and Clark fan.
I think there is a book, Basic Sciences in Kamal bookstore, that also will help you to sort it out, the basic science, this one.
The one's by
very famous. Yeah.
The one that you mentioned, the basic medical
Yeah,
sciences.
from
Yes.
our good old days. So that's the
Yes, good old
same
days.
thing. And then they upgraded. So you can use that book and then sort it out. But the most important is your questionnaires in the on examination for your MRCP part 1 or past test, where they give you explanation for your answer. So from there onwards, you can refer to certain books. That's more important for you.
Correct. It's not the knowledge. It's not whether you read Harrison's or whether you can, recite stuff from an encyclopedia. The most important thing is how do you analyze the question? And that, believe me, cannot be taught. It can only be acquired with practice. So if you practice the questions, all right, there's no magic number. Many people may say you must do 1,000 questions, or if you do 2,000, then you will definitely pass the examination. There's no magic number. All right. I did about 700, managed to clear the exam, but that was what I did. For the UK, I did more questions. So it doesn't matter on how many questions you do, because I did my UK first and then I did the Irish later. So by the time I did my Irish, I was pretty well tuned. I knew what the questions were asking, and there's always a way of tackling these questions, and that can only be achieved by practice. So you have 200 questions. Am I right, Colm? Is it 200 on the website right now?
180.
180, close. All right, so 180 questions. So you have 180 questions to go through, guys, and that'll give you a good feel of how you need to tackle the questions. Read around the questions, because you will be aware that in the exams, common things are common. So the questions that come out will be on everyday scenarios, because at the end of the day, they are looking at making a safe physician. They are not interested in making a physician who can find some minute detail on pseudoxanthoma elasticum. All right. They would want you to know about eczema, psoriasis. So do not worry about the nitty-gritty. What I would suggest is, common things being common, do read around the conditions that frequently pop up around you. And do remember that you have those 180 questions. You do have question banks, Dr. Tama, correct? One Examination, BMJ Online, they're available.
Yeah, definitely.
So use them, right? Use them so that you know what to read around.
You're absolutely spot on there. I mean, we're not out to trick people, right? We're trying to, literally support doctors early in their career on common conditions. And obviously there's more detailed questions, but read the questions. They're not there to trick or to catch out. It's there to come with the right answer. And as you say, practice, and reflect and practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I back what Colm said up there. Like a lot of candidates overthink questions. They overthink the question too much. Often it's a simple answer to the question, but they overthink the question, and they say, oh, it mustn't be that. It must, it can't be A. That's too easy. It has to be B, C, D, or E. But as Colm said, we're not here to trick any candidate, at all, for the written or the clinical. I think Dr. Power said earlier, like the clinical exam is simulated to, for your ward round, what you see in the hospital every single day. So there isn't going to be, a case in there that you've never seen before or you've never heard of before. The exams are there to simulate what you encounter every single day when you go into work. And that is for the written, that applies for both writtens and clinicals. They are, they're pitched at your level that you are currently working in.
And it's an interesting one. It's no reflection on any one country, because we had a pediatrics exam recently in our college with mostly Irish trainees, and there was a few questions that were so straightforward, but they overthought it, and quite a number of the candidates got them wrong. This is a pediatrics part 2. And the answer was actually very straightforward. So yeah, it's take every question on its merit. And as Sinead said, it's your work situation. It's what you're seeing in the ward rounds and what you're seeing in your clinics with your more senior colleagues every day,
Absolutely. Sinead, the questions keep on coming up. I think we need to clarify certain things. Now, they keep on asking, what's the validity after the part 1? Shall we repeat it for them? what's the validity after the part 1? They all seem to be worried that there's going to be another COVID-23, COVID-24, so they're definitely worried about that. And and how many, you mentioned it's 6 is the magic number in terms of the attempts?
Yeah, so 6 is the magic number for each component of the exam. So, you would have 6. So that means you basically have 6 attempts at the part 1, 6 attempts at the part 2 written, and 6 attempts at the part 2 clinical. You must pass the part 1 within 6 years of your first attempt at the part 1 written. But I want to, I suppose, try and reassure people that the vast, vast majority of people do not need all those attempts and do not need that time. Most people get through the 3 components of the exam within about 18 months from when they take their part 1 exam. So the way the calendar works, the exams calendar is scheduled around the completion pathway as such. So the first part 1 of any calendar year is in January. So if you can't, or if you apply for the August exam and you don't pass it, you can sit the next one in January. So the 3, it's normally the part 1 is normally January, April, and August. So if you are successful in the part 1, say in January 2022, you can apply for your part 2 written if you feel ready for it in March of 2022. If you feel you're not ready to sit the part 2 in March 2022, you can then sit it in July. If you are successful in the July part 2 next year, well, then you can sit your clinical in Malaysia. We normally have the clinical in Malaysia around November time. So that means within a 12-month period, you could actually sit and pass all 3 components of the MRCPI exam. So, so each component, so the part 1 exam is 3 times a year. It's normally January, July, and August. The part 2 written is 3 times a year. It's normally March, July, and late October or early November. And they are scheduled that way. So there is a seamless, progression, one exam after the other, whereby, excuse me, candidates can sit the exam within the full MRCPI within 12 months or 18 months of sitting the part 1. And again, I have seen some questions pop up there. Because of COVID, we are very aware that we haven't hosted any international clinical in Malaysia, and those time limits, some people will have passed them, or some people will be coming up to, they will be out of time to sit a clinical. But you email us in at examinations@RCPI, explain it, and we will extend that time limit. So the rules are there at the moment, but obviously because of COVID, we have to adapt. We have to adapt those rules because we have not been in a position to run a clinical exam in Malaysia since 2019, November 2019. But I think Colm mentioned earlier, we are working really, really hard at the moment to try and restart the clinicals again, hopefully toward the end of this year, if not early next year. But once it's safe to do so, we will be, we're very eager to resume our international clinical exams again. And I suppose I just want to really reassure people of that.
Absolutely, Sinead. There was also a question about whether COVID pneumonia is going to be on the exam, what guidelines do we read up? So I think this basically was answered by what we said earlier. If we're going to ask you a question about COVID, is that going to be the nitty-gritty, which guideline, what dosage of favipiravir will you be using, or will it be dexamethasone first and then anticoagulation second? The questions will be on practicing as a safe physician. Basically, are you aware of what can be happening in terms of COVID pneumonia, other complications, but not guideline-specific questions which may differ from country to country. A lot of thought is put into devising those questions by the Royal Colleges. And the questions that will be put forth, when they put a question forth, they are aware that a doctor may be doing it in Ireland, or the doctor may be doing it in Malaysia, or the doctor may be doing it in Sudan. So the questions that they put forth will be devised with the idea that this question should have the same answer whether you are a doctor in Ireland or in Sudan or in Malaysia. All right, you must remember that. Any questions that you see would be with those thoughts in mind. Am I right, Colm and Sinead?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's universal principles. But even if you go specifically into COVID, it's very early days in this disease. So you can't get into the absolute specifics because we're still learning every week with this particular disease. So, but you're dead right. If you're practicing medicine in Sudan or in Japan or in Malaysia or Ireland, it'll be the way that the structure of the questions is to take cognizance of all healthcare systems and approaches. So you're right, totally right there.
But just want to see that since they asked a book for the MRCP part 1, then we're going through this for part 1. Some of the things I mentioned about the basic medical sciences for MRCP part 1 by Philippa J. Easterbrook. I've gone through that. I think this is one of the book you all have to read, and not, there's a reference, it can be bought from the Kamal bookstore and all that. It's a nice book to read. It's called Basic Science for MRCP Part 1. That's where you can refer your question after doing the question. It's by the Philippa J. Easterbrook from Elsevier, I think, the publication. It's the same old book we are using, Paras, from those days. Yep. I think that's the best. They upgraded to 3rd edition or 4th edition, even better now. I think that's one of the good, since we are talking about part 1, how to prepare. I mean, another information I like to do, I like to tell is that you can contact me through my email, drtharma@yahoo.com, for your assistance for any question regarding RCPI preparation. And we are ready. Many candidates has contacted me, and we join a group and assist them accordingly. So don't worry about that assistance from our side. Paras, back to you.
Yes, we are there. We've got your back. I believe that there will be many questions, and I believe they will always be able to send those questions to us by email, Dr. Tharma. And of course, a lot of candidates may have personal questions which they may want to ask, but please feel free to email them over. We will do our best to answer them. In the meantime, Colm and Sinead, do you think there's anything more that we will need to, that we have missed out in the webinar for today?
No, I think most of I think it's been very useful, and I'm delighted to be able to answer as many questions as we can, and I hope people have found it of benefit. But I saw one question there. I think we mentioned it earlier, but just about the difference between the UK and Irish exams. And just to reiterate to people that there is no real difference. They're very comparable. There's they both have part 1, 2, and PACES or clinical exam at the end of it, and that the Irish exam has full GMC recognition in the UK now. So whatever differences, there is no big difference between the qualifications now, and I think that's just important to stress that. And I think one of the benefits to candidates for the Irish exam compared to the UK exam is that you can sit the part 1 and the part 2 written at home by remote invigilation, where I think with the UK, you still have to go to a written test centre. So that they're probably the biggest differences at the moment. It's more logistics than format.
Okay, so you have it there, guys. Take home points for today from me, Dr. Tharma, Colm, and Sinead. Number 1, you can do this 6 months after you graduate from MBBS. Number 2, it's completely online. You can do it from the comfort of your home. You don't have to worry about COVID pandemic. Number 3, all 3 components can be done in Malaysia. All 3. So you do not have to leave Malaysia to do your clinical examination. And of course, by doing this examination, you get the opportunity to become a fellow and examiner of RCPI. And the best part is you have an open entry anytime you need to go to Dublin, you can stay at Sinead's house or at Colm's house. You have accommodation secured for you in Ireland if you ever decide to travel there. For me, I think that's the best part, isn't it, Dr. Tharma? You get to travel there and you get to,
I
visit
thought
Colm
of
and
it,
Sinead,
but
isn't it?
pandemic is no problem now. So see, the other thing is that
Always the pessimist. Yeah.
to the candidate, you need to prepare. You need to put that effort of 4 months to do your questionnaire. No matter it is UK or Ireland, you need to prepare yourself. That's my summary. So when they ask what's the difference or which one easy to pass, which one easy, what is a curve, all that. So you need to prepare for both, whether you do UK paper, Irish paper, and you need to put your time there every day, about 1 to 2 hours, and then you can prepare by 3 for 4 months. I'm sure you can prepare for Irish paper. I mean, MRCPI.
Just to take up Paris's comment there, we would be delighted when you graduate to come to our beautiful country, to Dublin, for the graduation of your membership, and we would certainly show you a good time, and a Guinness or a coffee, whatever is your preference. No, we just maybe to wrap up, to thank Dr. Tharma and Dr. Paris very much for representing our college, and on behalf of our president, being our official representatives in Malaysia. And they have mentioned a lot of supports on this call. That is a genuine and a real commitment, because Sinead and I have met many candidates, even in the ground when we were in Malaysia, about the great support that the doctors and our fellows who are both on this call with us have done for our candidates. And look, we wish you every success in your career, and thank you for taking the time on the webinar today, because I know you're very busy.
Thank you, Colm.
Thank you very much, Colm.
Thanks, Sinead. Thanks, Kate.
No problem.
Okay.
I hope everybody has found it beneficial today. And I suppose just to remind people that this recording will be available to watch back, or if any of your colleagues have missed it, they can watch it back later or tomorrow. They will be able to find it on the website. And just again to thank Dr. Tharma and Dr. Paris for your time today. And just a reminder to everybody that the exam is the 19th of August, and that applications will close on the 23rd of June. So, if you are thinking and you do feel like you're ready to sit the exam in August, please apply before the 23rd of August. And if anybody has any questions, after this, if you think of something, you can always contact us at examinations@rcpi.ie, or the website is quite informative, or any of the college's social media challenges, or channels. You can certainly contact myself or Kate or anybody through one of those mediums. But thank you very much for this evening.
Thank you, Sinead.
Thank you all. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
As far as okay, because participants are overwhelming. Because what I did, I figured this IMU. I am one.